Orhan I, the second ruler of the Ottoman Empire, played a crucial role in shaping the future of the empire, not only through military conquests but also through the strategic spread of Islam. Born in 1281, Orhan was the son of Osman I, the founder of the Ottoman dynasty. Upon his father's death in 1326, Orhan ascended to the throne, inheriting a small but promising principality in northwestern Anatolia, which would later grow into one of the most powerful empires in history. At the time Orhan became sultan, the Ottoman state was still a relatively small entity, struggling to expand and solidify its control over the region. However, what Orhan lacked in the military advantages of his larger neighbors, he made up for in diplomacy, strategy, and religious zeal. The strategic positioning of the Ottoman Principality allowed it to influence both the Islamic and Christian worlds, as it bordered the Byzantine Empire to the west, the Seljuk Sultanate to the east, and the Byzantine-controlled territories in Asia Minor. Islam as a unifying force. One of Orhan's key strategies in consolidating his power was his strong commitment to Islam. By strengthening the religious identity of the Ottoman state, Orhan not only unified his diverse subjects but also positioned Islam as a central force for political legitimacy. The Seljuks had already established Islam in Anatolia, but it was under Orhan's leadership that Islam began to spread more rapidly throughout the Ottoman territories. Orhan understood that religion was a powerful tool in not only uniting his subjects, but also in solidifying his dynasty's legitimacy. This was the beginning of what would become a long-lasting religious foundation in the Ottoman Empire. Orhan appointed religious leaders, such as the local imams and scholars, to provide moral guidance to the people and assist in spreading Islamic teachings throughout the newly conquered territories. He made significant strides in integrating Islam into the social fabric of his empire by fostering the construction of mosques, schools, and madrasas. These institutions played a pivotal role in spreading Islamic education, creating a sense of religious identity among the Ottomans and drawing in converts from the local Christian populations. Islam provided the empire with a sense of purpose and a unified ideological framework that allowed for the stabilization and expansion of the Ottoman state. The role of Sufism and religious institutions. In addition to the formal Islamic education, Orhan also promoted the role of Sufi orders in the empire. The Sufi orders, with their emphasis on spirituality and mysticism, were essential in bridging the gap between the urban elite and the rural population. These Sufi groups were not just spiritual centers but also played an important social and political role. They helped in fostering a sense of community and belonging among the diverse Ottoman subjects. One of the most notable examples of this is the role of the Bektashi order, which had significant influence in the Ottoman military. The Bektashi's combination of religious devotion and social activism helped in spreading Islam among the people in the regions where they operated. The Bektashi network of dervish lodges also played a key role in spreading Islamic ideas through their popular teachings and practices. The religious institutions were critical to Orhan's success in spreading Islam. By ensuring that these institutions received state support, Orhan was able to maintain a steady flow of Islamic knowledge to his people, further strengthening the religious and political unity of the empire. Expansion into Byzantine territory. Orhan's religious agenda also had a strategic purpose. The Byzantine Empire, which was a Christian stronghold, was weakening due to internal strife and external pressures from the Ottomans. Orhan saw an opportunity to expand Ottoman influence through the conquest of Byzantine lands. His military campaigns in the Balkans were not only aimed at territorial expansion, but also at spreading Islam to the Christian population of these areas. The capture of the town of Nicaea in 1331 was one of Orhan's first significant military victories and a turning point in the spread of Islam in the region. Nicaea, once a major center of the Byzantine Empire, was transformed into an important Islamic city under Orhan's rule. The establishment of mosques, schools, and Islamic institutions in Nicaea played a pivotal role in the gradual Islamization of the region. Orhan's conquests in the Balkans and his expansion into the former Byzantine territories laid the foundation for the Pinas, Islamic presence in southeastern Europe, which would later flourish under his successors. Orhan I's role in the spread of Islam across Ottoman territories was not just about conquest, but also about laying down a framework for long-term growth and religious influence. His leadership saw the integration of Islamic culture, law, and religious practices into the daily lives of his subjects, both Muslim and non-Muslim. By creating a religiously cohesive state and combining Islamic law with political governance, Orhan set the stage for the Ottoman Empire to become a dominant Islamic force in the world. One of Orhan's most significant contributions to the spread of Islam was his establishment of the Janissary Corps, a powerful military force composed of Christian boys who were converted to Islam through the Devshirme system. This system, also known as the blood tax, involved the forced recruitment of young Christian boys from the Balkans, who were trained in Islamic ways, taught the Turkish language, and converted to Islam. These boys, once trained, would serve as elite soldiers in the Ottoman army. The Janissaries were not just a military unit but also an instrument in spreading Islam throughout the empire. As they moved into newly conquered territories, they carried Islamic teachings and practices with them. The Janissaries were often stationed in strategic areas, including parts of Anatolia, the Balkans, and even as far as the Kila, borderlands with the Byzantine Empire. Their presence helped to spread Islamic influence to rural and suburban areas where Islam had not yet firmly taken root. The Janissaries also played a critical role in maintaining peace and stability in the conquered territories. This allowed Orhan to ensure that his religious policies were effectively implemented across his diverse subjects, thereby solidifying Islam's place as the dominant religion. Orhan was keen on establishing strong Islamic institutions that would help govern his expanding empire. He understood that for the spread of Islam to be successful, it was not enough to simply conquer land. There needed to be institutions in place that would reinforce Islamic principles. He therefore oversaw the establishment of madrasas, mosques, and charitable institutions throughout the empire. These institutions became centers of Islamic education, not only for the Ottoman Turks, but also for the diverse populations living within the empire, including Christian, and not only for the Ottoman Turks, but also for the Ottoman Turks, but also for the diverse populations living within the empire, including Christian and Jewish communities. The madrasa system played a significant role in educating religious scholars, judges, and bureaucrats who would later serve in the Ottoman administration. They helped to establish the legal and moral framework of the empire, which was based on Islamic principles, specifically Sharia law. Orhan's system of governance also integrated Islamic law with traditional Ottoman governance, allowing for a smooth transition from the previous Byzantine rule. This system of law helped to create a sense of justice and unity across the empire, ensuring that the various religious and ethnic groups under Ottoman control were governed by the same set of laws. Under Orhan's rule, the construction of mosques became a key element in spreading Islam. Orhan built and patronized numerous mosques, both in Anatolia and the Balkans, many of which still stand today as symbols of the empire's Islamic heritage. These mosques were not only places of worship, but also acted as centers for community gathering and religious education. One of the most significant mosques built during Orhan's reign was the Orhan Gazi Mosque in the city of Bursa. Bursa was a key Ottoman city and the first major capital of the empire, and the mosque represented the merging of Ottoman political power with Islamic spirituality. This mosque, along with others like it, helped to provide the infrastructure needed for Islamic culture to thrive in the newly acquired Ottoman territories. Orhan also promoted the construction of other religious structures such as madrasas, imarat, and inns that provided services for travelers, all of which helped to spread Islamic influence throughout the empire. These institutions became critical in cementing the role of Islam as not just a state religion but as a foundation of the Ottoman identity. Perhaps one of the most significant areas in which Orhan spread Islam was in the Balkans. While Islam had already made some inroads into the region through earlier Muslim rulers, it was under Orhan that the Ottoman presence became entrenched. Orhan's military campaigns in the Balkans were not just about territorial expansion, but also about religious transformation. The Ottoman expansion into the Balkans was initially met with resistance, but over time, the Ottomans were able to convince many local Christian communities to convert to Islam, particularly those who sought social mobility or protection under the new regime. In regions such as Albania, Kosovo, and parts of Bosnia, Islam began to take root. Local elites, especially in regions like Kosovo and Bosnia, began to convert to Islam, gaining both political favor and the advantages that came with allegiance to the Ottoman state. Under Orhan's rule, the spread of Islam was not an overnight occurrence. It was a gradual process of integrating Islamic principles into the fabric of society. He established the political, military, and religious frameworks that would allow Islam to take root across the empire for centuries to come. By the time of his death in 1362, Orhan had laid the foundation for the Ottoman Empire to not only expand further, but also to create an empire where Islam would remain the dominant force for centuries. His strategic combination of military conquest, religious infrastructure, and social integration ensured that the Ottoman Empire would become one of the largest and most influential Islamic empires in history. Orhan's death in 1362 marked the end of an era, but it also signaled the beginning of a more expansive phase for the Ottoman Empire. By the time of his passing, Orhan had successfully laid the foundations for the spread of Islam across his territories. But it was under his successors that this process would fully mature and take root in many regions of Europe and the Middle East. Orhan's initial role in spreading Islam, however, remained integral to the long-lasting legacy of the Ottoman Empire. The influence of Orhan's religious policies was deeply ingrained in the fabric of the Ottoman state. He understood that a successful empire could not rely solely on military conquests. Instead, Islam served as both a unifying and legitimizing force. His efforts to entwine religion with politics gave the Ottomans a unique identity that would continue to resonate for centuries. One of the significant legacies of Orhan's reign was the transformation of the Ottoman Empire into a state with a strong Islamic identity, which would later influence the empire's governance, culture, and military strategies. The expansion of Islam under Orhan was not just a physical spread of territory, but also a cultural shift. The conversion of large swaths of the population, particularly in the Balkans and Anatolia, reflected the effectiveness of Orhan's leadership. The spread of Islamic culture reached far beyond the battlefield. It permeated the arts, architecture, education, and even social customs, shaping the very soul of the Ottoman Empire. Mosques, madrasas, and other Islamic institutions became symbols of the empire's power and faith. These were the places where not just religious teachings flourished, but new ideas, innovations, and knowledge spread, influencing the lives of everyone, Muslim or non-Muslim, within the Ottoman domains. Under Orhan's reign, the successful blending of military might and religious legitimacy played a central role in the Ottoman strategy. As the empire expanded, the Sufi orders, particularly Bektashes, became an essential part of the Ottoman religious and military apparatus. These orders helped to spread Islam through their mystical practices and, Their influence grew, particularly within the Janissary corps. Orhan's military force was not simply made up of warriors, but of people who also carried with them the responsibility of religious spread and social control, ensuring that Islam was firmly rooted in the lives of both conquerors and the conquered. The transition of Orhan's realm into an empire continued after his death, but the structures he put in place ensured that Islam would remain central to Ottoman governance and expansion. Orhan's strategic marriage to the Byzantine princess Theodora also signified his commitment to integrating the Christian world into the growing Ottoman fold. His policies aimed at winning over the Christian subjects within Ottoman territories ensured that Islam would not simply coexist with other religions, but would gradually become the dominant force. In conclusion, Orhan's reign marked a pivotal moment in the history of the Ottoman Empire. His efforts to spread Islam, both through conquest and cultural integration, laid the groundwork for the future growth of the empire. His vision, blending military prowess with religious purpose, would allow the Ottomans to carve out an empire that spanned continents and centuries. Though his successors would expand on his work, Orhan's role in the spread of Islam within the empire remains one of the key milestones in the creation of a powerful and lasting Islamic state.